Hi, I'm Matin, and this is Cyrus, and we run the Generation Lab.
We poll and study young people for leaders in media, business, academia, and government.
We're going to be doing three things today.
We've polled tens of thousands of young people, 13 to 34 this year, for folks like Axios, Ogilvy, NBC News, and we're going to share our Mount Rushmore of the four most striking findings from 2021.
And we're going to talk through very quickly how we find, engage, and retain young people.
We conducted an original nationally representative poll for IAB about how young people approach brands, loyalty, the workplace, and brand mission to mark the occasion. And we're going to announce the results at the end of the talk. So if you're planning to sleep through this, go ahead and set your alarm for like 15 minutes or so. That should do it.
So first, a 90-second background on the Generation Lab.
Yeah. So I'm at school in Western Massachusetts at Williams College, trying to do some B+ level journalism on what young people thought of the 2016 election. What do young people think about Bernie? What do young people think about Hillary Clinton? What do young people think about a gentleman named Donald Trump, who's getting in the race to that point? There was no data about what young people thought about any of those people. And where there was a lack of data, where there was a lack of facts and truth, stereotypes, hot takes, and conjecture filled that void.
And I was at Stanford doing research on things like education, human capital, and labor, and I saw the same gap on public opinion from young people on a timely matter relevant to the topics that we wanted to know most about.
So we got connected and decided that we would go to Washington, D.C., specifically Starbucks near the zoo, which if you haven't been, highly recommend just ditching this talk right now and booking your trip. And our sole goal was to build one thing very specific: data gathering infrastructure that would let us say with big confidence and with big authority, this is what young people think about this thing, whatever that thing might be.
And that infrastructure had to accomplish three things. First,
so it had to be wide reaching. We had to be able to talk to any young person across any demographic, whether that's by race, gender, socioeconomic status, geography, political affiliation, or any other behavioral characteristics.
And it had to be fast so that we can get relevant data on the issues that we care the most about in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
finally, it had to have methodological. We should probably lead off with the fact that it had to be good data. The folks that we wanted to work with, at least initially, and has continued to be the case, was initially folks in academia and folks in media. And as we all know, especially you in the crowd who fall into that space, no methodological slouches.
And then what happened?
We did it!
Yeah, so we did all those things and we tried to go back to school, but what we built was in such high demand that we decided to step away, take some time, raise some money, and work full-time on the Generation Lab. And in the past 3 years, since when we started this in the Starbucks, what have we done, Cyrus?
Done polling for clients in media, so we have partnerships with Axios for a monthly poll, NBC News, Morning Brew, and Snapchat.
We were on the Beschloss once. We've done some polling for clients in business and finances. So, and recent Walmart and some consulting firms out there, and many of the IAB folks here that are present in this event. That we can't necessarily talk about those.
And we've done polling for academia. So we built the largest deliberation of young people in American history for a Stanford University academic study back in March, which has since doubled the amount of gray hairs on Matin's head.
That's fair, yeah. And to do those things, we built the largest commercially available database of students and young people in the United States. So much so that the research firms we've admired the most along the way have gotten in touch with us when they have projects that cover young people. So before we start, we want to be clear about what we do and what we don't do as a part of this presentation.
So, quick list of topics that we won't be covering today: memes,
TikTok,
White Claw,
and being a Gen Z whisperer.
what do they whisper? Do they just like give people advice in a hushed tone?
But so for
It,
to kick it off, let's go through our kind of first finding from this year.
yep. So these are our top 4 findings from the year 2021 about young people. Let's kick it off. Uh, First finding was young people are inexplicably optimistic. So we worked with NBC News on a wide-ranging omnibus poll that studied anything from politics to social leaning to economic trends. And so what we found, and this was the headline that NBC ended up running with, was young people, despite the circumstances around them, inexplicably optimistic. So as you can see, when it comes to their own lives, 92% said that they were either optimistic or very optimistic. That number goes down substantially when we're talking about a bigger scope. When we talk about the world, only 60% called themselves such, and 48% when we're talking specifically about the United States. So there might be some level of pessimism when it comes to institutions, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to obviously public health in the world and in the United States. But the notion that young people today are cynical, bitter, and solely self-interested, not what's borne out in the findings. This is an optimistic group. Finding number 2, when it comes to social issues in the workplace and in businesses, right? So this is tearing through much of what we're studying, much of what folks in the audience obviously are thinking about and doing work to address. Should businesses, should the private sector delve into political and social issues? Okay, let's ask young people. When it comes to political and social issues, we had 68% of our respondents, 68% of young people in our polling with Axios tell us companies should speak to political and social issues that matter to them. 68% said that they should. 14% said that they should not, but 16% said that they wouldn't work at a place that doesn't speak to those issues, speak out on those issues, get involved. So that's 16% plus 68. It's about 85% of young people that say that a company should speak out on those issues and wouldn't work at a company that doesn't.
Yeah. Moving on to finding number 3, COVID has changed a lot of things, and a big debate that came out of that was the conflict between work from home or working in person. So we really were curious about what young people think about that. And so we went out there and we asked hundreds of them what they prefer. And what we found was, and this was published with in partnership with Morning Brew, was that most young people prefer a hybrid or working in person over just working remote. In fact, out of a 5-day work week, they would like to work 3 of those days in person. And that comes from the place of wanting to build community, build a network. And when we compare that with the other generations, we see that young people are a lot more eager to go back in the place. So if you think about working in person being a thing of older folks, that's completely wrong, because young people are more eager than older folks to eager to go back to the office, because they a lot of younger folks who just graduated college or just stepped into the workforce have never been in person, and they're really eager to learn from their coworkers, to learn from their managers, and to build a community. Building on that, we did a more comprehensive study of future of the workforce, and we surveyed again hundreds of young people, and we wanted to figure out what are their workplace ideals. And one of the things that we found was that 4 and 5 of them want flexible schedules as long as they get the work done. So it's not that they want to work any less. It's not that they want to get any less work done. It's that they want to spread the work out the way that works best for them. And I think that's one of the silver linings of COVID, is now people have figured out that they can segment their work in the way that makes sense for them. Also, we found that 91% of them want to settle down at one company at some point. A lot of folks want to just settle in the company right off the bat, right out of college, right out of high school. A lot of folks want to try out a few things for maybe a few years, but at the end of the day, they all want to, well, 91% of them want to settle down at one company either early in their career or a little later in their career. And the notion that young people will don't want that kind of stability and want to be very much hopping companies is just wrong. And young people are not weird creatures. They also are like the rest of the other generations who want stability.
Speak for yourself.
Thank you. I should. And 2 and 3 want feedback at least on a weekly basis, preferably face to face. So young people want the feedback constantly and they want it directly. So it's important to again recognize that young people do want to learn from their coworkers and their managers, and they want to grow. So moving on to
some of the keys of what we've learned from doing this polling, where we're surveying tens of thousands on a regular basis, young people. Here's number one. They're deeply pragmatic. There's a lot of guessing, there's a lot of guesswork, there's a lot of theorizing, smoke and mirrors when it comes to engaging, retaining, building things for young people. They're pragmatic. They're not selfish. They're very direct in terms of how they think about value. So 97% of climate scientists say that the Earth is on a steep path into unlivability and eventual destruction. So they're happy to take measures that you might view as drastic. Now, I like watching football. Reflexively seeing this kind of me off. I wanted to watch the game. I'm all for climate activism, jolting the powers that be into action, but come on, just watch some football. But then you think about the moment and the fact that young people believe, and scientists would agree, we're actively destroying the Earth for our own species, for eternity, and every other species that's out there. We're just sitting here tailgating football in New Haven, Connecticut. So young people draw a straight line between the situation on the ground, that's climate change, and what we ought to do about it. And so to them, it's a pretty easy calculation. Disrupt the game, even if it's going to make Cyrus upset.
The second big finding is that trust is local and it comes from proximity. So LeBron James, Selena Gomez, Craig Robinson, these are all celebrities that are entrusted to convince a bunch of young people to buy a product or a thing. Yet, here's who, according to our findings, has the most sway to get folks to buy something or take action. You recognize this person, right? Well, I'll save you some Googling. It's that. It's not my dad, unless you think that person shouts Mirramezani. But according to our polling, we found that through the polling that we've done for nonprofits, for the government, the most compelling vaccine endorsers are family members, friends, or their doctors. So when you think about convincing young people to take an action to buy your brand, you should think that the people who are closest to young people are the most entrusted.
Last things last, but certainly not least, directness and candor. So I'll try to do this directly and candidly. So we know not just from the results of our polling, but from the process of polling young people, tens of thousands of young people on a regular basis, keeping them responding to our research. Value their time, speak to their priorities, and they'll respond. So marketing campaigns, really good packaging, really good advertising, obviously, fantastic, essential. Don't replace a clear articulation of value. So as long as you communicate how you make their lives better, you've done the job. So, that should be liberating. It's not that you shouldn't be creative. It's not that folks shouldn't be jazzy and add flourishes when advertising to young people, but that cannot replace and that cannot come before a clear distillation of what your values are. So again, hypothetically, if we were to be, I don't know, trying to get people in this audience to, hypothetically work with us on research, which would be, terrible. Don't do that. And obviously, we might hypothetically say higher generation lab, period. Here's why. More methodologically sound than other folks that do this. We'll get you back data in 24 hours, get you data that matters while it still matters. And by the way, we're generally less than 50% of the cost, and oftentimes less than that even. So that's what we'd hypothetically say if we were trying to get you to work with us hypothetically.
No, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
So for the last part of our segment, we'd like to go through our IAB Generation Lab poll. This is what we've done exclusively, and we're releasing it right now for the first time. So in this poll, we go through origins of brand loyalty,
Places to find new brands,
most influential product endorsers,
most important factors that create loyalty,
reasons that brands lose loyalty,
and most compelling advertisement style.
and the new workplace. So
let's start off with brand loyalty. We asked young people what brands they've been loyal customers of for a long time, and asked them where they'd found them, and what did we find?
we found that families, friends, and in-person shopping over time have been the sources of brand loyalty for folks. And in contrast, we asked them today, when they go out and want to find new brands that offer them good quality products, where do they find those? And again, friends, family are still on the top. Now, we see that online shopping, online advertisement, online searches do rise compared to the past. But again, friends and family are still the highest. And in-person shopping falls a little bit. So this kind of gives an opportunity to really advertise to young people through who they know best and who's proximate to them, which is their friends and family.
Right. So when it comes to folks that have the strong endorsement, again, think back to that beautiful picture that Matin showed you of the stock image of a dad grilling. That's what's going to have the most sway. And I think that is going to be leading to the most compelling ads, the most compelling content is going to be a shift towards the micro, a shift towards grassroots advertising, where if you want me to buy something, best case scenario, you're getting Matin to be on a screen yelling at me to go, buy this new s'more flavored ice cream.
That would be horrifying.
Yeah.
Now, we asked what leads people to develop a loyalty to a brand, and by far, they're pragmatic. They want quality of product and they want convenience. Even affordability didn't to 50%, but it was really high. So if you want to get loyalty of a young customer, give them a good product, give them in a convenient way, and make it, as affordable as possible to them. Mission, contrary to conventional wisdom, does not come that often. And we think what would lead young folks to lose their loyalty to a brand. Again, same thing. Declining quality of the product, by far the most main reason why people would start buying from a brand. Even another competing brand does not come close to being a main reason why they would lose loyalty to an existing brand. So young people have big hearts. They have a lot of room for a lot of brands, and you just offer them high quality products in a reasonable price, and they would remain loyal to your brand.
It's easy. Last things last. Easily my favorite question. We asked young people to do one thing, and we did it with two separate tweets. We asked them to get their eyes checked. First tweet, direct, candid, explains why it's important to get your eyes checked. This is what it looks like. Eye exams eye exams detect other health problems too. Read the rest of your tweet. That got 49% of folks to say that they'd likely check their eyes. Compare that to some really, really, spicy Twitter game that we see from some of our favorite brands. That didn't necessarily have the same effect. One thing to keep in mind as you're designing campaigns and designing strategies to convince young people to do things.
Absolutely. And finally,
and in conclusion, in summary, we're all making our best bet, and we want to do that with research. When we have questions, we want to go straight to the data, and that's how we aim to understand young people. No silver bullet. Anybody that tells you that they get Gen Z, that they can decode it, that they can whisper it, is probably the first person that we should move on from speaking with. But we're in this hopefully together to better understand young people and better understand what the next generation is gonna look like through data.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, and don't forget to visit us at generationlab.org.
Thank you all so much.